Hello everyone, this is Shannon, and today I'm going to show you how I assemble a jellyfish. You can see in here how last time I mentioned I do the front loops only when I put on the skirt or the ruffle. And to assemble, take your needle, go through both loops on the undercap, and then you take that and you go through that open back loop. And then we're going to pull and pull snug. And you give it a good little pull. I try to use the same color as the yarn I've used on the bottom down here, close to what I've used on the ruffle right here. And the reason that I leave these back loops open for assembly is when I used to put this row on both of those stitches and I was coming through here and then coming through this way. See how the needle's poking out now on the front side of your jellyfish? If the colors didn't match, you would see the joining yarn, and I didn't like that, so that's why I made that change. When I assemble, I always start in the front center. It allows me to control the front loop we see here. Once I get about 2/3 of the way around, I stuff. If you can see on this little guy, he's got some more stuffing here than he does here. So we like what's called cluster fill. And you can just take it, and shove it on in there, and shove it towards the direction that you need the extra stuffing. And kind of manhandle him. Once he's put together all the way, you can finesse that. So I'm going to stitch this up the rest of the way. I've got 2 more stitches here. And you always want to make sure you're giving this a good little tug so that it's nice and tight and you don't have gaps around this bottom part. I've got that last stitch now. I'm sorry, pulled that through off camera. So now we're all the way closed up. You see that? And like I said, you can kind of squish and reshape. If you really need additional shaping somewhere, you can do that trick where you take your stuffing and put it down. I don't have scissors close, but I've got needle nose pliers. You kind of put it where you want it, and you just kind of shove it between stitches. This isn't working as well as I want it to. But works a little bit better with regular polyfill. We like the cluster fill. It does give a little bit better shaping, and it also makes them squishier, kind of like a certain line of squishy stuffed animals you can buy in the store. So there we go. So one of the things I mentioned before is if you notice the bottom cap of your jellyfish is so heavy that it's pulling down away from the body. And come back in here, come up in the center, and then this is the very center point. Now Clusterfill is fantastic for this reason. You don't have to fight to get through it as you're coming up through your plushie. Turn it over. Just make sure you're not getting knotted up anywhere. Now, you can kind of see as I pull, that gets pulled in. Come up through here on the top. Kind of hook it on one of the stitches that's kind of on the inside as you've made your rounds. I'm just holding it tight so that I can thread it, pull it through. Now we're going to take it and just shove it back down in. And at this point, I like to take, just like you would when you're going to finish off anything, and we're going to zigzag it through. I prefer a metal needle. I figured this bright green one would be easy to see. If you're going to go one direction, go back your original direction. You're pulling snug, but you're not undeshaping the layer here. And come back through again. Just kind of make sure you haven't pulled tight enough to make a pucker. And just trim close. And now your jellyfish is ready for a bow tie, bow, flower in the hair. This one's getting a bow tie. And so I like to put it down here more so you can see more of the face. And I am a rebel. I like to use E6000. And that is just because for me, my fingers cannot stand that amount of stitching. So, kind of decide. And then with the E6000, you do have to kind of press and hold it. Something I've noticed with cotton is you'll have to put a little bit on both sides, kind of press it down, then pull back up your bow or your bow tie, put some more E6000 on the back of it, and then press them together. So I'm going to let him sit over here, show you what the bottom caps look like. So I mentioned if you're doing a size 5 with 109 yards, you're going to have enough to do the body. I do the cap in another color, another yarn, but I had one and a partial, so I had enough to do this entire jellyfish in the same yarn. The way I determine what my chain links are going to be, my outside ones are always 25, 35, 45, and then go 5 less. So my center one here was 40. And then when I assemble them, this is going to be the front part of the cap that's going here. So I pick which ones I want to face towards the front, coming through from the underside, and I'm going to pull it through. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to pull it through. Let's run the back side here. I triple tie. I was doing this as a gift for a small child under the age of 3 for an infant. Of course, I would not be using safety eyes. And I would triple tie these. I always then tie them off another time. Everything's got 2 sets of ties on it. And then if this was, I knew for a young child, I would come through here and I would glue these knots with E6000. But I triple tie and then tie a second time so that if somebody pulls, they're not going to pull your knot loose. So for the center, there's 1 straight chain. I do a tendril on either side of that. Let me pull this other one through for you. I like to put my tendrils so that this part versus the inside here like that, this is facing the outside. Everybody's different. Do it what works for you. Tie this again. And I will go back and finish my ties later. So now what I do is, if you've seen diagrams on these, I'll have you lay it out. Then you come through and your next set's going to look like that. No. I prefer to do I add my chains. I like the texture it gives. Find my front. I also like having more tendrils showing to the front. So I'm going to go ahead again, put this tendril towards the front and this chain going towards the back. And that's how I will assemble it up. Now imagine we've tied all that down. And these are the tendrils, the curly cues that started on a base of 35. These are on the base of 45. This chain is 40. These chains are 30. And then my last row, these curly cues are base chain of 25. And these chains are a base of 20. When I do my last row, just going to do one side to show you. I attach a curly cue, and I skip one, and I do a chain, then I skip one, and I do my next curly cue. And I do this all the way around. The curly cues are, of course, 2 spots. So I skip one and a chain, skip one, curly cue. This method, I know that for this jellyfish, which is the last row of my cap, is a 2 single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, 2 single crochet. And I always start on a loop of 8. I will do 5 curly cues at the end. And it ends up nice and full, like this little guy is. And you get these little shapes. The little chains on the other side help add color. You get layers of color. You get layers of texture and depth. And they hang really nice. And so that is how I sew them together. And that is how I put together the bottom cap. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Bye.